Do you ever feel like your team is just spinning its wheels, hitting the exact same roadblocks sprint after sprint? Well, what if I told you the real problem isn't your team at all? Today, we're going to talk about how to level up from being a great Scrum Master to becoming a true agent of change for your entire organization.
So here's the game plan for our journey. We're going to start by expanding our view beyond just our own team. Then we'll stock up our Facilitators Toolkit with some really powerful new techniques. From there, we'll dive into coaching for self-organization, learn how to handle those tricky conversations, and finally, bring it all home with a super practical guide for tackling those deep systemic problems.
Okay, let's dive right in. Your journey to becoming an advanced Scrum Master, well, it really kicks off with one huge realization. The team's biggest, most frustrating hurdles, the ones that really slow things down, they almost always come from outside the team itself.
You can think of it like learning to cook. A CSM learns the recipe, the framework, the rules, the mechanics. An advanced CSM, on the other hand, learns the art of cooking. They learn how to improvise, how to coach others, how to think about the entire kitchen system to create something truly exceptional. It's the difference between being a line cook and being an executive chef.
So, what does this actually mean in practice? Well, your role has to evolve. You stop being the person who just removes tactical blockers, like chasing down a missing password. Instead, you become a systems thinker. You start diagnosing and fixing the deep-seated structural issues, like a broken handoff process between two departments that are creating those little blockers in the first place. All right, so if you're going to take on these bigger systemic challenges, you're going to need a more powerful toolkit. This is all about moving beyond just running the standard Scrum meetings and getting some advanced techniques that drive real, meaningful engagement. And let me tell you, a fantastic place to find these tools is in what's called liberating structures. These are basically simple but incredibly powerful facilitation techniques designed to completely blow up the typical, boring meeting format where only one or two people talk. The goal here is to make sure every single voice is heard. Let's take a classic example, 1, 2, 4, all. This thing is brilliant. In just 12 minutes, you can turn a totally passive audience into a super engaged group of problem solvers. It starts with 1 minute of silent reflection, then you pair up for 2 minutes, then you get into groups of 4, and before you know it, the whole room is just buzzing with the best ideas from everyone. It's structure, it's speed, it's inclusion, all in one.
Okay, but what about those really tricky dependencies between teams? For that, there's a tool called What I Need From You, or WINFY for short. It's designed to cut right through all the ambiguity and politics to create crystal clear accountability.
And the real magic is in its simplicity. When one team makes a request, the other team can only give one of these 4 answers. And get this, no elaboration is allowed. No long stories, no, well, maybe. If your dev team needs final ad copy, the marketing team can't just say, I will try. They have to commit with a yes and a date or say no, which forces a really important conversation about priorities right then and there.
All right, so once you've got these awesome facilitation tools in your back pocket, the focus starts to shift inward. It's all about developing your ability to coach and empower other people, moving away from telling them what to do and instead helping them find their own answers. This is the absolute core of Agile leadership. Seriously, think of it this way. Are you a puppeteer or a gardener? A puppeteer controls every single move, but a gardener? A gardener creates the right conditions, the good soil, the water, the sunlight, and then lets things grow on their own. As an Agile leader, your job is to be the gardener for your team.
A really advanced Scrum Master learns to move skillfully between these 4 coaching stances. Sometimes you need to be a teacher, explaining a concept. Other times you're a mentor, sharing your own experience. But honestly, the most powerful stances are often mirror, where you just reflect the team's reality back to them without judgment, and coach, where you ask those powerful, open-ended questions that help them unlock their own potential. The real art is knowing which hat to wear at any given moment.
And this quote from McKinsey just nails it, doesn't it? Your role as a leader completely evolves. You're not the planner anymore, you're not the controller, you become the visionary, the architect, and the coach. Your entire focus shifts to developing people and building a community where an Agile culture can actually thrive.
Of course, every hero's journey has its dragons to slay, right? Well, for a Scrum Master, those dragons often show up as difficult conversations, team conflict, and just general resistance from the organization. So let's just bust a huge myth right now. We're often taught to think that conflict is a bad thing, that it's a sign of a dysfunctional team. But in reality, healthy, constructive conflict is actually a sign of engagement. It means people care enough to disagree, and more importantly, they feel psychologically safe enough to speak their minds. Apathy, now that's the real enemy.
The Thomas-Kilman model here is like a map for these tricky situations. Now, of course, collaborating for a win-win is always the ideal in an Agile world. But a great Scrum Master knows that other modes have their place. You might need to use forcing for a critical security issue, or maybe smoothing is the right call when an issue is way more important to a team member than it is to you. Knowing when to use which mode is a critical skill.
So how do you actually guide a team through a conflict? Well, you follow a clear process. You don't just wing it. By acknowledging the conflict openly, making sure everyone gets to share their perspective, and then brainstorming solutions together, you can turn a potentially explosive argument into a structured opportunity for the team to grow even stronger.
All right, you've navigated the challenges, you've grown your skills, and now it's time to bring it all together. In this final part, we're going to build a really practical guide, the Elixir, to help you diagnose and solve problems at a truly systemic level.
A core tool for this is the Iceberg model. It's such a great visual. It teaches us that the events we see every day, like a missed deadline, are really just the tip of the iceberg. What's driving them, deep below the surface, are reoccurring patterns of behavior, the organizational structures that enable those patterns, and the deep-seated mental models or beliefs holding the whole thing in place. To solve the problem for good, you got to go deeper.
But before you can solve a problem, you have to understand what kind of problem it even is. And this is key. Not all problems are created equal. The Cynefin framework is a fantastic sense-making tool. It helps you figure out the landscape so you can apply the right approach, instead of just using a hammer for every single nail you see.
And this is where it all comes together, our final tool, a powerful one-page roadmap. By combining Cynefin with these response patterns, you know exactly what to do. For clear problems, you apply best practices. Easy. For complicated problems, you call in the experts. For complex problems, which is where most of our work actually lives, you have to probe with small, safe-to-fail experiments. And in a chaotic crisis, you have to act first to stabilize the situation. This is what shifts you from just reacting to making strategic, effective interventions.
And that leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought. After learning all these amazing tools and frameworks, we often discover that the biggest barrier to change isn't some process or some other department. It's us. It's our own mental models, the assumptions and beliefs that shape how we see the system in the first place. So the question to leave you with is, what assumptions might be holding you back?